Love has never been the absence of fear. It has always been the place where fear is revealed. This is one of the most misunderstood expectations people bring into marriage and close relationships. That love will make fear disappear. That commitment will create safety automatically. That intimacy will calm what has long lived beneath the surface. But love does not anesthetize fear. It exposes it. Not because love is insufficient, but because love brings us close enough to be known. And being known has always been the threshold of fear. Scripture does not describe love as a shield against discomfort. It describes love as a refining force. Refining does not destroy what is present. It brings it to the surface. This is why fear often intensifies, not diminishes, after commitment. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of losing control. Fear of being seen clearly and still rejected. These fears were always there. Love simply removes the distance that once kept them quiet. In faith, fear is rarely framed as weakness. It is framed as something to be confronted, not avoided. Yet many people enter marriage hoping love will protect them from inner confrontation. When fear emerges, they assume something is wrong. But fear emerging does not mean love is failing. It often means love is doing its work. Fear shows up when vulnerability increases. The closer we draw, the more there is to lose. The more visible we become, the more exposed we feel. This is why emotional closeness can feel threatening even when love is genuine. The problem is not fear. The problem is how we respond to it. Some respond by tightening control. Others respond by withdrawing emotionally. Some spiritualize fear away instead of naming it. But fear does not leave when it is ignored. It reorganizes behavior. Control becomes a way to manage fear. Silence becomes a way to manage fear. Certainty becomes a way to manage fear. These strategies feel responsible. They feel mature. But they often come at the cost of connection. Faith invites a different response. Not the elimination of fear, but the examination of it. Fear asks important questions. What am I protecting? What feels at risk here? What do I believe would happen if I stayed open? Without reflection, fear becomes authority. With reflection, fear becomes information. This is where spiritual formation meets emotional maturity. Scripture often speaks of fear not as something to shame, but as something that must be rightly ordered. When fear governs love, distance grows. When love governs fear, growth becomes possible. But this ordering does not happen automatically. It requires awareness. It requires humility. It requires a willingness to sit with discomfort rather than escape it. Many people confuse faith with certainty. But certainty is not faith. Trust is. And trust requires risk. In relationships, trust does not mean believing nothing will go wrong. It means staying present even when fear suggests withdrawal. This is why faith without emotional courage becomes hollow. It speaks peace but avoids truth. It promotes endurance but resists vulnerability. Yet the formation faith invites is internal before it is relational. Before patience becomes behavior, it must become posture. Before gentleness becomes action, it must become awareness. Fear interrupts this process when it remains unnamed. Love reveals fear so that fear can be formed, not obeyed. When fear remains unexamined, it disguises itself as wisdom. It says, "Don't bring this up. Let it go. It's not worth the tension." Sometimes restraint is wise. But chronic restraint is avoidance. Faith does not call us to emotional silence. It calls us to truthful presence. Presence means staying engaged when fear urges retreat. It means speaking carefully rather than withdrawing completely. It means listening when correction would feel safer. This is the work of formation, not behavior modification, not spiritual performance, but internal alignment, the alignment of belief, emotion, and action. When fear is revealed, the question is not how to remove it, but how to walk through it faithfully. Because fear does not disappear through avoidance. It diminishes through courage. And courage is not loud. It is steady. It shows up as honesty without accusation, as openness without demand, as presence without control. This is how love matures. Not by eliminating fear, but by refusing to let fear dictate the terms of connection. Before you move on, sit with these questions. What fear has intimacy revealed in you? How has that fear shaped your responses rather than your prayers? And if love is meant to form courage, what might faith be inviting you to face rather than avoid?